This her details started like any other. Okay. The morning sun alerted Soujuurou to the day of work lay ahead. Specifically, the gardens needed tending to. And an unkempt garden made for an unhappy Soujuurou. Luckily, today was his day off from all his part-time jobs. It was a perfect opportunity to get his hands dirty. There was one problem, however. The mansion's grounds were vast. Not only had the courtyard been left to run wild, but the area around the front door had been neglected too. To attend to these problems thoroughly, he would have to work on them week in and week out.
よし、まずは地ならしだな。
In an ideal world, this task would only take a day, but for its enormity. For the moment, Soujuurou decided to set foot into the mansion's wilderness and evict the weeds. Missing none of the early light, he started tackling with the ones around the mansion. By his estimation, he could clear the forecourt, courtyard, and backyard, then take a small rest. Hi. Minecraft sound effects.
どうしたの彼。
He's playing Minecraft.
さあ、草摘みが趣味ってわけじゃなさそうだけど。
It was just before noon in the sunroom. Alice had come down, book in hand, to find Aoko sitting down with a fashion magazine and elegantly sipping tea. While occasionally looking at Shizuki doing all the work. Through the window, she could see the crowded figure of Soujuurou shuffling by.
朝からやってるみたいよ。起きてカーテンを開けたら、もうあの格好でスパスパやってたから。ついでに焼却炉の掃除も言いつけといたけど、いいでしょ？いいけど、頑張るのね彼。外はあんなにも寒いのに。
Alice quietly sat down. A teacup had been placed on the table for her. She poured herself some tea and proceeded to open her book. The two sat passing the time in silence. Well, he's technically centered or something. Having happened to have the same idea. A nice relaxing cup of tea in the sunroom. With their evening girls decided there was no need for idle chatter. Aoko stared out the window, intermittently turning her gaze to her magazine. Alice was immersed in a book on rune magecraft, occasionally tilting her head up as if to recall something. As if by unspoken agreement, in unison, they pressed the teacups to their lips and glanced outside. Look at this little crazy bitch. Look at this little crazy speech. Oh. Also, I guess she's staying out of my bed, otherwise she's cranky. What's up? The two girls suggested appeared as if he were an animal on the zoo. Nara was interested in lending a hand. Despite his sluggish movement, he was making good progress. Yet one of them decided to, "Hey, could you do this just because?" As Aoko's attention turned back to the sunroom, her eyes met Alice's. Alice turned her gaze to her book, The moments later, she raised her head again. Guilt? Jesus Christ, you don't need to use like an AK-47! Clearing her throat, she attempted to focus on reading. I was so surprised that Alice admired Soujurou's diligence. Not even 30 minutes had passed before he had cleared the courtyard of its unsightly weeds. Without stopping once, the mysterious gardener left the courtyard, puffing clouds of white bread. The area he left behind was spotless.
プロかしらね、あいつ。
Alice managed after scanning over his work. A stalwart Soujuurou worked confidently and ceaselessly. She was impressed, like she was watching a scene from a great movie. But before long, she grew irked. Why would he waste his energy like that, she thought. And why would you give him a job to do around the house, was the question. Alice looked at the clock.
焼却炉。今から手入れをしたら夕方ね。そっちはもう終わってるわ。朝、上から見てたもの。壊されちゃいけないからあれこれ指示出してね。いやー、窓開けて散々となったから部屋が冷えること冷えること。
It was just the same to assume Aoko had come to the room to escape her cold room. Being barking orders from a window and cleaning in the cold, it was clear who had the harder job.
しずきくん、何か言ってこなかった？言ってたけど、よく聞こえなかったわ。
I was too busy laughing at him, said Aoko. In other words, his complaints fell on deaf ears. With nothing else to discuss, the two resumed their reading. The ever so tense silence was broken by Soujuurou entering the house after finishing his cleaning. Boo boo. You stared at the two of them, displeased.
あったかそうだね、青崎。
外よりは幾分ね。廊下の気温は外とあまり変わらないけど。それでどうして庭の掃除なんて始めたのよ、宗十郎。
Soujurou's subtle jibe had fallen to find its target. Really, Aoko? Really? He had no chance of winning, and so just hung his shoulders in defeat.
今日は本当に寒い。明日あたり雪でも降ってくるだろうから、外の掃除は早くに済ませたかったのに。焼却炉は予定外だったぞ。
He sounded resentful, but his problem was not with the additional work. If anything, he was glad to do it. What he did not care for was how nobody had even bothered to lend a hand.
いいじゃない。焼却炉はみんな使うんだから。じゃ、その首相な心がけついでに2階の廊下に掃除機かけといてね。それと裏庭のブナの添え木壊れかけてたでしょ。工具箱はあんたの部屋に置きっぱなしだからそれを使うこと。で、全部終わったら私の部屋に来てくれる？いらないものまとめておくから焼却炉で焼いておいて。
That's why she made him clean the incinerator. Cruel, but clever.
それで青崎、君は何をするんだ？
そうね、やることもないしギターにでも触ってようかしら。
Aoko thought hard about how to spend their afternoon. Yet the thought of cleaning did not cross her mind, as had always been the case. No, it was not out of spite that she did not think to help clean. It was because the word cleaning was not in her vocabulary. Soujuurou knew exactly why the mansion was in the state it was in. Well, still, that did not change the fact that the corridor upstairs was very long. And Aoko was not lying about how cold it was. Inside was not much different than outside.
そうか。あくまで掃除をする気はないんだな、尾崎。まあ、掃除はしたいからするけど、こう、なんだろう。一緒に住んでる人間をそこまでこき使って、良心は痛まないか。それとも、割と気づいてはいたけど、良心そのものがないのか。
I'll go with the option number 2, ha 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 ha. Right? As usual, he might have gone too far. His remarks had hit too close to home. Aoko closed her magazine and turned to face him. I mean, doesn't he have rights to say? Whoa, infuriated, she glared, her sharp blue eyes piercing into him. Soujuurou knew he had not said anything unjust, but he always backed down first.
総十郎、何度も言うようだけど。
Cleaning is for the slaves. Get it?
はい。
He replied automatically, straightening his back in response to Aoko's cold, calm tone.
勘違いはしないで。私たちはあんたを同居させてあげてるんじゃない。これ以上ないって譲歩の末、仕方なく飼ってあげてるだけなんだからね。
Aoko did not miss her words. Soujuurou nodded in defeat.
そうか。飼ってもらってるのか。
Yeah.
そう。番犬にもならないだろうけど。
Bitch. Aoko responded, already tired of the conversation. Neil should have you should have relayed it Doga's offer. While Soujuurou had little room to counter, he still tried.
しかし一方、番犬は間違っても自分の食い縁を入れたり、天津さえ家賃を払ったりしないのも事実であった。
Yeah, for fuck's sake.
なんか言った？
いや、負け犬の遠吠えを少しばかり。
He raised his hand dismissively, knowing he could not win. To Aoko's ears, his attempt at self-deprecation sounded facetious.
総十郎、あんた、本当にわかってる？
Forcefully, but... Yeah.
そうだな。君たちがどうあっても掃除をする気がないぐらいは、なんとか。
Aoko grinned at their pet's obedience. As long as he knew his place, that was all that mattered to her. She seemed to be extremely satisfied with this response.
余裕あるんだ、しずきくんってば。
Her playful smile darkened as it Soujurou's expression.
青崎、なんだか息ができないんだけど。
このまま放っておくと、そんなことも言ってられなくなるんだけど、試してみる？
He shook his head, his expression growing more and more grim.
懸命ね。私も窒息したいなんて見たくないもの。
The grating sound subsided. Soujuurou gingerly touched his throat. The collar that had suddenly tightened around his neck returned to its normal size.
気管が塞がれた時の苦しさを知らないんだろう、青崎は。本当に抵抗できなくなるんだぞ、あれは。
だからそのための首輪だって言ったでしょ？ 今まで実践したことなかったし、あんたは相変わらず危機感ないし、ここらで一度しつけておいたの。
You're such a fucking whore, not gonna lie. Holy
それより
shit.
掃除急がないと日が暮れるんじゃないの？
はあ、わかったよ。結局今日はこうなる星の運びだったんだ。
Soujuurou left the sunroom, his shoulders slumped and his tail between his legs. Aoko watched him leave before turning to her magazine as if nothing had happened. Alice paid no attention. None of that had anything to do with her. With Soujuurou gone, the room once again fell silent. As the clock ticked on, Alice suddenly stopped flipping to her book.
ねえ、どうして彼を酷使するの？
Yeah. She asked as though talking to herself. Aoko replied without so much as looking up.
別に最後には記憶を消させてもらうんだから、楽しかったら困るじゃない。
Lips secure as ever, but sincere in her own way.
そう。言われてみればそうだったわね。
Alice could not believe she had forgotten about the situation. Silently, she looked up from her book and gazed outside once again. The courtyard through the window reminded her of where she lived a decade ago. Nothing could compare to the beauty of those gardens. But if that was the case, why did the scenery make her feel nostalgic? The shitty weather in UK? All Soujuurou had done was take care of the gardens with the goodness of his own heart. In only half a day, he had achieved so much. It was Christmas Eve, and snow had started to fall. Its timing was still good, as though it had waited for that day specifically. Wow. The cold, bustling main streets shone bright and vibrant under the layer of frosty white. Lantern statues illuminated the surroundings. Children danced merrily to jingle bells. People walked along the brick road, smiling broadly. These festivities, however, had not reached the mansion on the hill. Of course not. Silence enveloped the isolated building. The shadow of the snow-covered woodland grew longer, beckoning into darkness. People returned to the warmth of their homes, knowing a bitter night lay ahead. Something had been amiss in the mansion all day. Perhaps it was the calm before the storm. 2 days had passed since Aoko Aozaki had revealed herself. Aoko and Alice spent more and more time locked in their rooms. Mealtimes had grown noticeably quieter. When their roles decided, they were too busy with their own jobs to worry about each other. On this day, the two had been relaxing in the drawing room since morning. The mood was calm. Well, mostly at least. Soujuurou was fretting that tonight would be the same.
雪が明日ならよかったのに。
He aimed his words towards the girls on the sofa, despite knowing they would be ignored. Whether the snow fell today, tomorrow, or not at all, it did not affect them. The snow just meant a white Christmas. Aoko remained silent. She wasn't ignoring him per se, she just had other things on her mind. Soujuurou knew this would still cast a lonely glance around the sunroom. The courtyard she had cleaned only a few days ago was hidden by a layer of white. The falling snow would stop every so often, but then resume again as if teasing Soujuurou. By the next morning, the courtyard would be a winter wonderland. Aoko and Alice sipped tea in an effort to fight the cold. In fact, that was all they were doing.
そういえば瞳子さんの髪の色は青崎より濃かったね。あんな綺麗な赤毛は初めて見た。短くしてるのはもったいなかったな。
Darker. Soujuurou rambled on, not expecting a response. However,
短かったって姉貴の髪が？
yeah. Ako's explosion went from nonchalant to its usual sharpness.
それどういうこと？短くしてるって髪の毛のことよね。
Maybe I'm colorblind, but no, I can't see it's darker.
ああ、
Honestly.
アリスより短かったけど、それがどうしたんだ？
But it fits her.
別にあの人前は私より長かったってだけ。そう、あの髪を切ったのね、姉貴は。
Naka spoke in a grave tone. Showing slight interest, Alice turned to Soujuurou.
普通じゃないな。髪を切ったぐらいでどうしたんだ一体。瞳子さんの髪が短いと青崎が困るのか？
まあその通りだけど。いいわ、どうせ夜まで暇だし説明ぐらいはしてあげる。あんたがそんなこと言わなければ未知数のまま瞳子と戦う羽目になっただろうし。
Naka knowingly glanced at Alice, her expression suggesting she was treating her. She was also likely seeking approval. Alice remained stoic as ever, her expression showing neither approval nor disapproval.
簡単に言うと魔術師にとっては髪の毛も武器ってことよ。昔から人間の髪や目は魔術の材料になりやすいの。女の場合はことさらにね。
Right.
瞳の色は多いほどいいし、髪も長いほど質がいい。髪の毛は自身と同一視しやすいし、長い年月をかけて育てられる原始的で強力な原料と思ってくれていいわ。私が髪を伸ばしてるのはまあそういうこと。手入れが大変なんだけど、そこは女だから半分趣味みたいなもんよね。
Soujuurou glanced furtively at Alice, wondering if this seemed held true for her. Maybe Alice had cut it because it was a hassle to maintain. It's not stupid, but then again, this was Alice. Soujuurou nodded to himself. She's lazy.
じゃあ青崎としてはいいことじゃないか。瞳子さんの髪短いんだから。
それがここに来る前に使い切ったものならいいんだけど、伸ばした髪にはいろいろと使い道があるのよ。私は瞬間的な術の強化にしか使えないけど、姉貴だったら高級的な術の補佐に使うはず。
Did she use it all on a singular doll by any chance? When she attacked you and Soujuurou? Right.
年月と想念を蓄えた髪は魔術師の分身とも言える。そういったものをね、死んじゃった犬だの猫だのを反言させるときに与えると、術者に服従する使い魔が出来上がるの。生前魔力のなかった使い魔。例えば猫とか犬ね。これらは術者の髪を取り込んで独自の魔術回路を得る。申請することで全く違う生き物、猫の魔術師になるってこと。例えば人語を介したり人間に化けてみたりって。行動原理も変わってしまって大抵は術者に似通った性格になるわ。そうよねアリス。
Your last words came with a mocking smile. Alice silently ignored it.
じゃあ瞳子さんにはアリスのみたいな使い魔がいると。
そう見るのが妥当でしょうね。姉貴は20年以上伸ばし続けた髪と引き換えに強力な使い魔を用意したってことよ。
The fight at the amusement park. Just the thought of Alice Kuonji releasing a flight snark sent a shiver down Soujurou's spine. The oil of the moon had been a unique familiar, out of this world.
ほら、そこ心配しない。三崎町をぶっ壊す規模の使い魔なんてありっこないから。確かに長く歴史のある紙を使用するほど強力な使い魔が出来上がる。けど紙を使った魔術師はそれまで溜め込んできた山中のうちの一つを初めからやり直さないといけない。切った紙はまた伸ばさないといけないでしょ。使い魔を作るのは簡単だけど、そう多く従えないのはそういうことなの。
Azuko's poker mood visibly improved, as though she had made a breakthrough.
犬とか猫か。
Tilting his head to the side, he could not imagine a world where dogs and cats were so powerful.
変ね。
ん？
瞳子さんは人魚師よ。使い魔を作って自分のレベルを下げるのはどうなのかしら。
協力者がいないだけでしょ。青崎のお家騒動に人の手を借りたくないから自分だけで全部やるつもりなのよ。あ、もしかして遊園地の人形って姉貴の紙で作られたんじゃないだろうな。
確かに話に聞いた限りだと特注品ね。呪いによる永久期間、両手のギミック、フィンの一撃、執念深さ。瞳子さんでもゼロから作るのは難しいでしょうけど。
けど何よアリス。
あの人は人形に自己を投影するような人じゃないわ。完璧な偽物なら許すけど、偽物に過ぎない偽物は容赦なく壊してきた。
Yeah, no, and when we fought at the amusement park, that thing spoke a cryptic Latin that kept asking for its death, honestly.
青子から見て、その特注人形は瞳子さんと同じ力量を持っていた。
まさか遠く及ばないわよ、あんなの。
なら瞳子さんの髪とあの人形は別件よ。あの人が自分の魔力を分け与えたほどの使い魔があと一体はいると見るべきね。
専門家としての意見。つまりその使い魔は姉貴より強い。
そうでないと意味がないわ。人手が足りないというのもあるでしょうけど、だって私たちは2人、彼女は1人だもの。
同時制圧も想定済みってわけ。なるほどね。その場合どっちが強い方を引き当てても恨みっこなしよ、アリス。こと使いまであんたが遅れを取るとは思えないけど。
Alice had never been defeated by a familiar. She cited Aoko's overconfidence.
青子、たとえ20年間の蓄えを付与したとしても、その器が小動物では限度があるわ。あの瞳子さんが切り札になる使い魔を用意したのなら、それは。
よしてよ。いくらなんでも姉貴はそこまで悪趣味じゃないわ。
Aoko and Alice stared at each other. The conversation had returned to the drawing room. The subject matter was not for the faint of heart.
そうね。けれど人間を追い詰めるのに最も効果的な相手はやっぱり人間なのよ。瞳子さんが死者を亡者にしていなくてもそれと同格の相手がいるぐらいは覚悟しておいて。
はいはい、わかったわよ。確かに天才ってやつは空気読めないから、どんな生き物の死体を用意してきても驚かないわ。
Aoko nodded reluctantly at Alice's directness. Needless to say, Soujuurou was completely lost.
よくわからないけど、なんで青崎たちは死んでるってことに固執するんだ？生きてるものじゃダメなのか？
それは使い魔じゃなくて協力者でしょ。使い魔は基本術者なくしては生きられないものにしないと。それでいて優れた意志を持ち、術者の資格や盲点を補える知性もある。それが一流の使い魔の条件よ。正直な話、それだけ都合のいいやつは死から作り直すしかないってわけ。
Completely obedient and capable of compensating for their mage's weaknesses, Soujuurou felt that the familiar was a little different than himself.
さて、姉貴は昔からルーン使いだったから戦術は予測できる。問題の切り札もどうやら使い魔らしい。自動人形もさすがにこの前で使い切っただろうし。
Aoko spoke directly to Alice, looking for confirmation. Alice nodded in agreement.
じゃあ予定通り今日で終わりにしよう。この1ヶ月好き放題やられた借りギッタンギッタンにしてあのバカ兄貴に返してやる。
Right, totally not you being some kind of an evil dictator to Soujuurou or anything. Yeah, nope. Well, yeah. Aoko clenched teeth and balled her fists. It all seems like nothing more than sibling rivalry. In fact, that's probably all it was. Looking at Aoko, Soujuurou let out a sigh of relief. With what happened with Toko and how he reacted to her visit, the atmosphere had been deadly tense. For now, though, Aoko seemed much calmer. He took comfort in the thought that perhaps the sisters would just bury the hatchet. Even if Aoko and Toko were not sisters, he would not want to see what would happen if they fought. The hands of the clock turned gently. Approaching Judgment Night, a merciless silence would soon come to mock Soujurou's complacency.
Complacency.
Complacency, okay. As that appeared, the two things vanished. The first was the whimsical snowfall. The second was the lights of the mansion and top of the hill. It's getting a little bit too difficult to see. I picked the wrong time to record this visual novel. Aoko and Alice were nowhere to be seen inside. I can't see anything whatsoever anymore, except for the text. Only Soujuurou remained. It was the night of Christmas Eve. Though Aoko and Alice had yet to find Aoko, they knew everything would be concluded over the course of this day and the next. Christmas comes but once a year. It was a singular time for endings and new beginnings. In Japan, the modern holiday dated back only about 100 years and celebrated Christ's birth only in name with all its latter-day trappings. It was neither a pure homage nor corruption of the festival that inspired it. Regardless, there was a significant increase in the land's mana during festivals. Such charge distortions were a boon to a mage's craft, be it creative or destructive. Aoko Aozaki sought to destroy the local sigils, which gathered and probably cycled the magical energy of the land and its people. Soujuurou was able to gather that much from Aoko and Alice's conversation. Aoko had already claimed 3 sigils. Only 2 remained. Any further loss would signal Aoko and Alice's defeat. In order to protect the remaining ones, he had to split up. Aoko lacked power, so she would need to borrow a ploy from Alice and head to the Tokawa sigil, which boasted the greatest local energy supply. Alice would go fully equipped to the sigil in Yashirogi. Free from the constraints of civilized society, Magecraft is most powerful at midnight. The young witch and the apprentice mage wished each other luck before leaving the mansion. It was almost 10 at night. After the girls set out, the first 2 hours passed quickly. And Aoko was ready to head up. Soujuurou walked with her to the foyer. Never had spoken a word to each other. She had departed without showing any sign of fear. It was difficult to tell whether she did not want to get them involved, or whether she did not see him a worthy ally in combat. The thought stuck with them. He let out a long sigh, not out of dejection or frustration. It was a mechanical, emotionless breath. He sat on the near-frozen floor, staring wickedly up at the skylight. Moonlight peeked through the clouds. He imagined the moonlight bouncing up the town's powdery blanket and illuminating the night. But he would not find himself downtown. Watching from the sidelines was his role to begin with. His roommates and he lived worlds apart. He could not keep up with them, and if he did not show the same kind of well, he would remain on the sidelines. However,
そうか。この手が必要な時はもうないのか。
Soujuurou looked up at the moon. Somewhere deep inside, he felt a trickle of sadness. Eh? Veiled in white and cloaked in darkness, the park seemed like a forgotten memory. Oh boy, I'm getting flashbacks of horror click games just from this spot alone. Not a soul was in sight. The night felt far more enigmatic than usual, yet the air was clean enough to drink. Though only a sliver of moonlight pierced the clouds, it lit up the entire world. In those moments, a young girl's footsteps echoed, trampling the still white silence under a midnight sun. The pale moon illuminated the inky blue sky. Now a few streetlights and an incongruous phone booth strange signs of civilization. A girl appeared dressed in black. Against the snowy landscape, the figure of Alice Kuonji was unmistakable. Let me deal with the sun a little bit. Yeah, what up? Anyways, pure black, deeper than even the night. Wear her overcoat, gloves, and a hat, even hair and eyes. Nothing stirred for a time. Not Alice, nor the white scenery. The world was a still painting of a snowy field. Only time moved gradually, darkening the lights in the park, and eventually the nearby homes as well. Yashirogi was a more modern and developed town than Misaki. Though the park was located in the center of town, it had become a blind spot. It had been overlooked by developers and carried no commercial value. A few houses encircled the park. The streetlights turned off at midnight. It was a white night. People, even machines, were fast asleep.
私が先なのね。
Alice whispered, whoa. Whispered, watching the streetlights slowly fade. Right, yeah, it's just, it happens every night. Nothing to worry about. It's just a dog. Howling for no reason. Everything's gonna be alright. She does hear the dog howling in the distance. Oh boy. Perhaps it was howling at the moon. The howl reached deeper into the night than expected. A wolf, maybe? No. The phone rang. It was perhaps the first time it had rung since Soujuurou moved into the mansion. Hesitantly, he picked up the receiver and brought it to his ear. He heard nothing. He felt he had to see something, but could not think what. Maybe something like, "Moshi mosh, Kuonji residence." Or maybe, "You reached the Aozaki residence." While he was deep in thought, a voice as light as air came through the receiver.
Shizuki.
Soujuurou could barely hear the voice, but it was definitely Alice's.
そうだけど、アリス
No response. The silence was as profound as the night. But for the sound of static from the receiver... After a long pause, Alice finally spoke.
青子はいる。
いや、まだ帰ってないけど。
そう。
With a click, the call ended. Soujuurou wondered if she had something to say, but could not respond in time. Slowly they advanced, carving through the fresh snow. There were so many. Where had they all come from? Dozens of feral dogs snarled at Alice, their eyes trained on her. The snow clung to the beast's maggy fur. Their clenched fangs and bloodshot eyes had a barely restrained hunger that might burst forth like lightning at any moment. They yearned to taste their warm flesh and satiate their empty bellies. To them, the girl in black stood like a lighthouse in a stormy area. She watched them disinterested. It appeared that the Yashirogi sigil was the key target tonight, not the Kaba where Aoko had gone. Alice had always been unflappable, and the child's play before her was hardly about to change that. Her main enemy was not the dog Stardecker, but the lone mage behind them, Aoko Aozaki.
ひどい趣味。ここ数年で品が落ちたの？まあ、それならそれで嬉しいけど。これが地金なら、青崎との付き合いもいよいよ白紙に戻せるわ。
Toko left at the acerbic taunt.
いやいや、これは不可抗力でね。安心しろアリス。間違っても私の趣味じゃない。
Crunching through the fallen snow, Toko slowly came into view. She wore a moss green coat that contrasted sharply with Alice's garb. A silk scarf warmed her neck. She stood tall, her hair short, striking a more valiant posture than any young man. After all, the two standing here needed to be less like the shining moon, and more like the darkness surrounding it. The barking abated. Like servants in a royal court, they averted their eyes from their ruler. At least their eyes and hearts be plucked out.
久しぶりだね、アリス。
瞳子さんもお元気そうで。
They stood about 12 feet apart. Not love had been lost between them. No love, just two enemies. One who was to be victorious and one who was to fall.
さて、どうしようかアリス。積もる話もある。君の近況にも興味がある。そもそも今回の件についていろいろと説明したくてたまらない。5分ほど時間を割いても構わないか？
お断りよ。あなたと5分も話をしていたら、その隙に内臓まで売却されそう。
The following events unfolded quickly. Boldly and without the second thought, Alice pulled out the cat spell from the seam of her mantle and dropped it. Diddle, diddle. The beginning of Alice Kuonji's magecraft. The start of a night of fairy tales. Have fun. Aoko favored the quick, raw approach like something from a western. However, Alice preferred sleight of hand. She used her target's blind spots against them, and ended the game before they knew it had begun. The bell, the bell fell like a coin into a fountain. Then, as it was about to strike the ground, it shattered, disappearing without a trace.
ルーン。
ああ、1日かけて公園中に刻ませてもらった。この公園の道はレンガだからね。手間こそかかったが簡単な仕事だった。周りの森まで見て、ざっと400平米のキャンバスだ。面白いだろ？今私たちは30万字以上のルーンの上にいる。
Swirling hard, Alice took a step back. The Toko had carved runes all over the ground. Even in the area Dill reacted to alone, there was a depressing amount of them. And she truly carved them into the whole park. Alice did not react with surprise. She simply narrowed her eyes. She could see how it would have taken the whole day. If the snow water diddle by the end of the night was destroyed by the skin of sun. Still, something bothered Alice.
一体どうやって隠していたの？
There were just so many. What kind of magecraft could do that?
ああ、ちょっと特別性。このルーンね、普段は確定していないんだ。こうしている今も変形している。パッと見はただの傷跡。それが強い魔力に触れると元の形に立ち戻る。 形状記憶ルーンとでも言おうかな。そんなわけで、いかなる夜の深さをもってしてもこの太陽は没しない。この通り雪が降ってくれたおかげで視覚的なごまかしも万全だったしね。
She spoke modestly, but Alice could not imagine the amount of persistence, technique, and skill it must have taken. And it only took a day. Even then, mages would have trouble producing so many sophisticated runes in that time. Moreover, these runes were made using unknown techniques the association had not approved.
負け惜しみだけど、私みたいな小娘一人に大人げないわね、瞳子さん。
バカを言うな。君を小娘だなんて一度も思ったことはないよ。まあ、私好みの体だと眠めつけることはあったがね。
Don't have to be creepy. Oh, it happened in the blink of an eye. Alice kind of took a slight remark with a deadly stare. The left eye of the darkly clad girl changed in color to an ominous ruby. The speed of the incantation was phenomenal. Alice's mystic eyes of enthralling snared Toko. She had been the one to, quite literally, be taken captive by the girl's stare. Wow. Toko tried to raise her arm, but could not even move a finger. Alice's mystic eyes commanded absolute control, with no room for resistance. Only a person's internal organs were allowed the freedom to move. Since their organs still functioned, it was more precise to see that their eyes forbid the target from acting. Alice had played her hand with exquisite timing. It wasn't the speed of her eyes that gave her an edge. The deftness which she wove her spirits to exploit the briefest vulnerabilities what made Alice a different caliber to other mages like Aoko. This witch, who lived hidden in the modern era, was more seasoned in magical battles than Aoko Aozaki.
だが残念。ディドルディドルが響かないのでは魔眼のアクロスティック化はできないようだな。惜しいね。あの月目のプロエキシャーならこれで私の方はお手上げだったろうが。
The formation holding Toko began to distort. In the blink of an eye, the mage had bested Alice's mystic eyes. Alice's black outfit fluttered in the wind. She turned so she was not facing Toko head on. The mage had recovered through her own mystic eyes. A trigger of Toko's mystic eyes was a spell of mesmerize. Most effective when facing their prey, such eyes could mind jack a target's awareness. It was difficult to resist head-on. However, its effect was greatly diminished if the target was not facing the eyes directly, even if it was within range. Moreover, the girl was the last witch of her lineage, who commanded a great number of fairy tales. Against mystic eyes that projected their effects, simply turning one's body was enough to repel half of the magical energy. Like Alice's eyes, Toku's could also disable actions. Alice had the skin by the skin of her teeth. The damage she drew suffered was the weight of a trip to a forest. She just had to let the energy pass through her. In an instant, a startling chill ran through Alice's body. This was a problem. The touch of death ran up her spine. She glared at the mage before her as blue rubber balls pulled out from beneath her overcoat. The stare-off grew more intense. Alice glared harder, resisting Toko's mystic eyes with her own. Losing was not an option. In terms of raw magical energy, Alice Kuonji's mystic eyes were more powerful and advanced than Toko's. Surely nobody could beat her. And yet, her unfiltered shock of magical energy, stifled by old-fashioned values, was no match for Toko's madness. Deeper within her eyes, somehow the eyes revealed a sealed power. Inside the crystalline lens of the mage's left iris was a bottomless pit. Alice winced in pain. The binding screw number. So many mystic eyes. Thousands perhaps. It all fixed in Alice. Pressure. So much pressure. Endless. But Alice knew it. She saw. Incredulously, she saw eyes growing within eyes. Toko had placed sepulchric mirrors inside her eyes, resulting in an infinite glare. It was the act of a madwoman, creating mystic eyes within mystic eyes. She could even control the resulting chaos caused by all the copies. Her insanity knew no bounds. No mage in their right mind would mass-produce so many mystics, the last escape of humankind so indiscriminately.
やれやれ、これもお気に召さないか。私なりにマインスターの真似事をしてみたつもりなんだが、うまくできているだろう。君の悪路のように希少な神秘で現実をねじ曲げるのではなく、量産した神秘で現実をねじ伏せる。もの自体はただの魔眼だが、その段数には果てがない。相手がどれほどの魔力抵抗を持っていようと、それ以上の魔力で拘束するだけのものだ。
She built up power without limit to disable an opponent. Once she was cut in them, one was chained to the concept of infinity. Projection-type eyes had the fatal flaw. Their firepower and formula were insignificant compared to the great artillery of enchanted spells.
Incante.
But Toko had torn down the conventional wisdom with brute strength. If the gun was a pea shooter, she simply needed to break more guns. A 9mm bullet could never destroy a fortress, unless one threw a fortress mass of bullets at it. The principle was brutishly simple, but in the world of magecraft where concepts decided supremacy, Toko had created the perfect weapon. The target would be bound until she closed her eyes. In theory, at least, the effects were infinite. No amount of magical energy could ever overcome it, so it was ever futile to resist using magical energy. Of course, one way to counter it would be to see out of Toko's line of sight to begin with. The standard tactic against Mystic Eyes was to defeat the user before they were aware of you. There was, however, another way. It was simpler than one might think.
ともあれ、これで罪だ。何か言い残すことは？
Alice could no longer see her enemy. Toka's infinite eyes had bound her. All she could make out was a sliver of moonlight, and a blue streak racing its way towards her.
結構悔いのない人生で羨ましい。
She threw her rune in the air, unleashing a shockwave to tear flesh asunder. The guests making blades of air that shredded Alice's overcoat and men. Holy shit! Blue feathers flitted all around. Toka felt something behind her and turned. 5 cat-shaped bells were thrown at her feet. And just as quickly, they shattered to pieces. Standing before her was a completely unharmed Alice Kuonji.
そよ風みたいなルーンね。瞳子さん、本当に鈍った？
うつせみか。術者の身代わりになるプロイの話は聞いてなかったな。
ええ。1年のうち365日は役立たずで、どうしてあんなのが古参なのか私も疑問だけど。
As if responding to Alice's words, the bird began chirping frantically. Wow. So that's what Robin can do. An anonymous sacrifice. Who killed Cock Robin? Echoed the night, sang out of tune.
ああ、そんな歌もあったな。だがあれは一度に1回しか殺されない。2度目はないし、あったとしても。
The bird squawked, a very and bird-like death throw. From behind Alice, the blue robin fell from his tree, a victim of Toka's mystic eyes.
本当に使えない。
さて、ではやり直しだ。あとも使えている。これで終わりにしよう、アリス。
そうでもないわ。確かに今の私にあなたの魔眼は破れない。けれど Beauty up with wood and clay, wood and clay, wood and clay, Beauty up with wood and clay, my fair